I'm honoured to be interviewing Golriz Ghahraman. Did I get it right?
That's perfect.
That's perfect. All right. And Golriz is going to tell you about her career. So tell me about what you do.
Right now I'm a barrister. I practice law here in Auckland. I practice criminal, human rights. I do a little bit of public law, and I consult for the UN. So I go over and work on their justice missions and rule of law missions from time to time. Yeah.
Okay. So, and how long have you been in New Zealand? Where did you come from?
I came from Iran. My family and I moved here. We were asylum seekers back in 1990.
Wow.
So I came here as a child asylum seeker when I was 9 years old. And
So you're the oldest? Or?
I'm an only child.
You're an only child.
Yeah, so as parents of an only child who happened to be a girl child
Wow.
under that Islamic regime.
So how many people similar to your background in New Zealand? Zero?
I mean, it's really difficult with refugee communities because often there's a lot of shame attached to that kind of acknowledgement.
Right.
And I've been a little bit louder, I think, than everybody else, but it's hard to figure out who is and isn't
Really?
a refugee. And not a lot of people got out of Iran, so
Right.
those that did get out was much later.
So are there many Iranians in New Zealand?
There's a few thousand, as far as I know, yeah.
Right. Okay. And you came to Auckland, did you?
We came straight to Auckland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would have made things a bit easier because it's a bit more multicultural here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understood.
That's right. We went to West Auckland actually first off, and that
Right.
was the diversity was two layered. It was culturally diverse, which
Right.
it still is.
Sure.
West Auckland, but socioeconomically as well.
Sure.
It was we had nothing, so it was nice that that was okay.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Understood. So what did your mum and dad do to get you back on your feet? What
So-
had they done previously in Iran?
So my dad was an agricultural engineer. He was involved with sort of extracting different types of energy, sustainable energies actually from various agricultural goods. That he never did that
to
again.
do that? No.
No, nothing like that
No,
existed here at the time.
I'm sure.
And my mother was a psychologist. So that was their background, but here they sort of did odd jobs until they got back on their feet, and then they owned small businesses,
Understood.
as people do.
Right, and they work very hard.
Incredibly hard, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember anyone really being home after school ever.
Yeah,
I was thinking about
understood.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right, because they were always working.
always
Right.
working. Yeah.
So, of course, that's been passed down to you, and your journey has been one of incredible hard work as well.
Yeah, I think it's, I do think it's a heavy burden that refugee children in particular carry, because you have the burden of, migrant parents
Yes.
having given everything up for
That's
a better
right,
life, but
yes.
you also kind of have that the real gratefulness to the host country, because you've kind of know that you could have died or been oppressed very very heavily.
Yes.
So you've got the burden of the opportunities that are lost to everyone back home. To young women in particular, in my case. Yeah, you kind of really focus.
Understood. So you work very hard, but you've got a great record.
Yeah, I've been very lucky, but I've kind of, I think with that background in my mind, I've sort of seized every opportunity as well that's been put in front of me. And of course, my passion has always also been shaped by that background. So I've gone into human rights for that reason and international justice for that reason.
So it's really interesting because all of the women lawyers that I've interviewed for SUPERdiverse WOMEN all have the same backgrounds.
Oh, incredible.
They're Maori, they're all sorts, but actually it's all the same, which is that they came into the law because of human rights and because of what they'd experienced.
Right, yeah.
So it's been really interesting because you feel alone, and then you find a whole bunch of people who've all done the same thing.
Yeah, no, we've got similar worldviews, I think.
Sure.
Shaped by some vein of
So you understand what I'm trying to do with SUPERdiverse WOMEN and why it's
Absolutely.
important. Yeah. What do you think we can do as an organisation? I mean, can you see that even 10 have joined since we got this out a week ago?
Yeah, I did see that actually yesterday. No, I think it's incredibly important. I was thinking about it, and I think you've just said there's so many of us, but actually, coming up in the law, I didn't see anyone like myself.
No, I didn't either.
And I didn't, and even now I kind of look at barristers that I know. There's very rarely a woman of a different culture, a senior woman to look to. We don't We don't seem to, even if they're in the law, it's that kind of extra thing of being an independent barrister. And then I was thinking, even it's even better here than it was in the UN. So, you know, prosecuting war crimes, you get no women that are of a certain background.
So I went to work in the United Nations as well, and I found the same thing.
I found it even less.
So I got a Harvard Human Rights Scholarship to come, and you know, I specialised in indigenous people's rights and women's rights. And I remember turning up to the International Labour Office on the first day in Geneva, and they just said, "Are you the new secretary?" And I thought, wow, okay, I wasn't expecting that on my first day.
I mean, I describe it as being like Mad Men, you know, the show from the 1950s, where it's kind of, exactly, the support staff and the interns are very bright, hardworking women, and recruited from the local community often, and all the senior professional staff, you know, so in the context of prosecuting these world leaders, you know, for essentially cultural crimes.
Yes.
And you've got them sitting there, and you've got, you know, one after the other, white, older men standing up either on the bench as judges or prosecutors and defence lawyers, and it just looks wrong.
Well, I mean, of course, we love older white men.
Absolutely.
I'm married to one, but you know,
absolutely, and it's.
But it is.
They're my biggest mentors.
Precisely, they have been mine as well. But you know, it's time for us to mentor each other, really.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You know, you just want us at the table. That's all.
Yes, because I think our viewpoint's different. So tell me, how has your viewpoint differed from others because of the journey that you've walked? Because you are in, despite the fact that half the graduates now are women, you are still in a profession where those at the top still are predominantly, you know.
Yeah, I think, I think what I'd like to see happen in terms of diversity initiatives is that I would like our aim to be to mainstream diversity.
Understood.
You know, I don't want us to be consulted with when there's a women's issue or a cultural issue.
Right.
You know, I want us in the justice sector, you know, I don't want us to be involved just in sort of where there's a gender-based issue. I want us as judges and as lawyers.
Yes, absolutely. It's about numbers, and I guess part of the reason for setting up this organisation is to explain to people that the numbers are changing, and that actually in Auckland, a third of the people in Auckland very, very soon will be coloured women.
That's incredible.
It is incredible.
It's
They look like us.
Exactly.
So we go from being very lonely and never seeing anybody else like us. But of course we need to make sure that those people can rise to the top.
Yeah, I mean, I think being from, you know, I kind of, like I say, we moved to West Auckland and then I went to school. I'm very grateful I went to school at Auckland Girls Grammar because it was so diverse. Again, both ethnically and culturally and sort of socioeconomically. And I think, you know, that is exactly why I had even an ounce of confidence in terms of going off to Oxford or going off to the UN and, you know, just standing, you know, in those courtrooms in that context. Because as a refugee from a Muslim background, from a small South Pacific nation, it was that diversity that I grew up with here in Auckland that made it okay for me in my mind, you know, to kind of give myself a voice. So creating those communities is just so empowering, critical.
Absolutely. So in terms of what you've managed to achieve, tell me about what it is you're trying to do with your work.
I think my work is pretty values-led. So I wanted to go into human rights, and I really quickly realised I'd gone off to Amnesty International out of law school with no intention of practicing law, and I sort of realised actually I need to be effective here, and with that law degree I need to go and learn how to enforce human rights. That's what I'm going to be bringing to the table. So it's always about asking myself, you know, what am I bringing to the table to kind of, if it's human rights, it's not really about me and my interest in it, it's about making those rights effective. If it's justice, it's about sort of facilitating access to justice. So what I do is practice law, but I also do a lot of policy work, for example, and I work for various organisations that need human rights reporting work, and I still consult with the UN, so you know, I go and the next thing I'm doing is going and teaching some prosecutors in Nigeria about human rights standards, because they've never had a code of ethics there for prosecutors, and so it's about it's about kind of it's justice and human rights, but it's where am I going to be most effective. So my legal career is quite eclectic.
Understood.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, I do, and in fact we had just
the same.
Oh, well, I had the same conversation with Prue Kapua,
Right.
who's now president of the Māori Women's Welfare League, and her comment was, I look at all these men and they just have regular CVs, they stick to their core business, they graduate from law school, they go to, one of the big firms, they become a, partner, they leave, they become a barrister, they become a QC, they become a judge, and then they die. And she said, my career's been all over the place. And I said to her, yeah, so's mine.
Yeah, and in fact, I've never really looked up to anyone and not found that they've really zigzagged and they've done a funny,
Well, I have actually looked up at people who've just become president of the Court of Appeal or the president. Or Chief Justice.
But I bet they've stepped out in other little ways.
No, some of them just really haven't. But I think when you don't quite look the part, you just have to take a different path. There isn't a path for people like us.
Yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe that is the blessing.
But I think that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's a lovely way of putting it.
Not being able to at the start of your journey look 40 years down the road and know exactly where you're going to be. Yeah,
it's true. It also allows us, I think, to open doors at a very late stage. I mean, I still ask myself every day, should I be doing this? Or should I go off and do something else?
Yeah.
Where could I be more effective? It's you ask yourself, I think, different questions.
Yeah.
Because you think, well, if I've walked a journey like this, I certainly don't want that happening to other people.
Well, that's exactly right, and I think the perspective that comes from having a different background then also means that you kind of notice, you have a more nuanced view of what's happening, so you notice different problems, and so you might go off and write about it. You might be more motivated to teach.
It does make you very tired though. I mean, I just was having this conversation with my husband just now, that actually I could just do none of these things, but the difficulty is you see it, and nobody else is doing it. He started for the last 5 years, and I just was waiting for someone to do it really. And no one did it, and I thought, oh damn it, it's time, and it's clear that it's time.
It really is. So thank you for doing it.
Well, no, it's sharing the workload, and no thanks are needed. So, I think it's going to be amazing, actually, just meeting all these women. I mean, for me, it's been amazing already interviewing you all, because ultimately, instantly, we actually have a very similar career.
It's going to be an incredible archive to dip into as a resource. For inspiration or for guidance or for support, absolutely, and it's organically built by us, which is what's really important.
Because people have recommended, they've said, oh look, you've got to have X in the group, and of course I don't know who X is. But then you look at your CV and say, wow, where have they been hiding?
That's true.
Unusual. So I suppose that's the other reason why I wanted to set up this group, because so often you've got the same sort of gaggle of 30, and there's all these other women out there who are doing amazing things.
Maybe that's interesting that you say that. Maybe despite how successful people have been in their particular fields, there's still that lack of access, and that's why they're not known. So we're only known by each other within our community.
So what I wanted to do was also to build that access, because the great thing is you guys get profiled. People say, wow, okay, I didn't know these people existed, and then they access the network. So I think that's
right.
Yeah. So I think trying to make the invisible visible, I think is a very important part of the work.
We do fall through the cracks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So are there more like you now? And do you hang out with the Iranian community?
Not so much. I think because the community, there were so few of us when we first,
So you had to fully integrate, really.
Absolutely.
Didn't have a choice.
Yeah, it didn't.
So do you still speak your home language?
I do. Yeah. Yes. And I didn't even. I think I woke up to being Iranian, and then very quickly, actually, I'm a Middle Easterner. I'm not from a religious family at all, but having that cultural identity has been part of the
Is it really hard to be part of a world which is so vilified and misunderstood at the moment?
And I think I kind of woke up to it when 9/11 happened.
Yes, I'm sure.
I just suddenly realised that it's actually really important for me to identify, because I don't get vilified. People often say to me, oh no, but you're a Kiwi. And I'm a woman and I look Western.
Yeah, no, that's right. And you're not all wrapped up in a hippie Imagine what it'd be like if you were dressed
well,
like
exactly, and that's
Being
why
possible.
it became important for me to actually be quite loud about. No, this is what a refugee looks like. This is what a woman from that part of the
Middle
world looks
East,
like. We are diverse.
Sure.
We have organically grown feminism. We want different types of things.
Right.
But I'm not, I'm not just a Kiwi.
No, I understand.
So it was
It's
an
additionality.
interesting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, understood.
So it's interesting to put that out there for people to
So of
grapple
course,
with.
we always moan about the fact that actually Asia capability is quite low in New Zealand, but Middle Eastern capability, I presume, would be non-existent.
It really is. We're
Yeah.
not reflected in any, and I think refugees. It's also a little bit of a disparate community because people hide away.
Yeah, sure.
And so you don't get people supporting us into leadership roles from our own communities, and we're not in Parliament, we're not in other governing bodies.
Yes, understood.
Yeah, so
I do understand that.
it's another layer.
Okay,
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that really. I just know that my father always used to say to me if I was doing interviews, make sure they know we didn't come as refugees.
Yes, this is it. My parents say that. They go, but you're not, we are. You don't have to save us. And no, it's really important.
Well, it was to him. He says, you need to explain, I was a top Olympics coach and we came for, I was asked to come to the country. I always say, yes, Dad.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. We'll make that
Well,
very
people think it's related to being poor or,
Right.
And we were political asylum seekers.
Sure.
But it doesn't matter anyway. It's sort of about those kids arriving now.
So tell me about living in Auckland. I mean, Tamaki Makaro, the place desired by many, is an environment for you to grow up in. I mean,
absolutely incredible. I mean, I love Auckland. I came back here for Auckland. So
how long have you been back?
Been back almost 3 years. Yeah.
So you stayed away a long time.
I stayed away a while, and
Your parents must be very happy to have you.
Yeah, exactly. So it was for family, but it was also, I just do really love living here, and I got to a point where I was like, I have to settle somewhere. I had this other offer in The Hague, and I kind of went, it's so grey. And you don't get the colours that you do here, and you don't get that sunshine. And so for me, Auckland is the West Coast beaches, and it's the harbour, and it's essentially that kind of Grey Lynn, Ponsonby area where I went to school and I kind of still live in. And like I say, had I not experienced the diversity that comes with having gone to school just off K Road, with a 70% Pacifica population bussing in from all over the city, I mean, I really don't think I would have been able to stand up and do some of the things that I did. So that's Auckland to me.
That's excellent. I'm so pleased that Auckland's resonance through SUPERdiversity is important to you, because I think that's one of the unique aspects of Auckland, that it's so diverse. I mean, because I was in Wellington for a long time, and when I got up here I thought, wow, okay, this is a really different place.
We forget that Auckland is actually one of the most diverse and most peacefully diverse places in the world. We've still got challenges, for sure, in terms of race and culture.
In general, we don't kill each other.
No, it's
interesting. I recently came back from Jerusalem, and it's interesting. When you look at that very complex situation. I mean, New Zealand is pretty simple in many ways compared to that.
Absolutely, you get to forget about. I mean, just the fact that I got to forget about my background until 9/11 happened. That I could peacefully just grow up and be a school
Whereas there,
girl.
you were just very aware. You have to place everybody. Immediately, you have to say to yourself, "Is that an Arab? Is that a Jew? What sort of Jew are they? What sort of Arab are they?"
You just go over the Tasman, and there's they've got a hierarchy of whiteness, let alone
a hierarchy of whiteness.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure where you and I fall on that, but
we fall out of that.
It's very
Even
interesting.
within the Italians and the
Yeah, but the crazy thing is, I was talking to all these Anglo-Saxon women who've just been spray tanned. So they pay to have brown paint on them, and then I've got people saying to me, "Oh, you should wear whitener," and I'm thinking, half of us are painting ourselves brown, the other half of us are told we're supposed to paint ourselves white. It's hysterical.
I was really excited to live in Cambodia when I first moved there, because to me it was at least Asia.
Sure.
I kind of felt like it was going closer. And then there's that whitening culture.
it's just, well, I've recently been in Seoul, and the whitening thing is a big deal. I feel like a minstrel there, you know, because people are looking at you like, oh, you're brown, you haven't put
what
white
happened?
on your face. Because the whiteness stops here, so it's like they have a white face and then a sort of a yellow neck.
Oh, you haven't seen the nice long gloves.
Oh, that's very strange indeed. But, you know, ultimately what it tells me is that, you know, the UN passion that we both have is just the UN Declaration, equal dignity, equal respect. It's pretty simple. Really.
Yeah, and it comes from participation.
Sure.
We can't just be consulted with, so this is exactly what we need. We actually need to celebrate and support each other as we go through and sort of mainstream ourselves.
So I think it's about power and influence, really.
Absolutely.
Good. All right. Excellent. Thank you very much.